time for another round of Brandy. Candid conversations over cocktails about all things brand with your hosts, Reilly Newman and Scott Saunders, the brand developers behind Motif Brands.
And welcome back to another round of Brandy. This episode in particular is actually a little different than what you're used to.
Not a normal round of Brandy.
Not a full
We're
round.
We're trying something a little different today.
We're calling this a Brandy shot.
Yeah, they're going to be more. Occasionally, I think we're gonna want to touch on a topic that may not warrant talking about it for 30 minutes without us getting really redundant. But it's more of, again, a reminder, and it might be subjects that we mention or kind of touch on in other episodes, but we just want to kind of talk a little bit more about it. But yeah, I think Brandy Shot's an appropriate title. Just throw back a little shot at this rather than sip on a whole, cocktail with us for a half hour. So we're going to kick it off by just talking about one of the biggest faults a lot of small businesses do when they're creating their brand is they make it about themselves. Mm-hmm. They make the business and the name of the business and the visual representation, they make it very personal.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of danger in any time a brand makes it more about themselves than those they're trying to, engage with.
Yeah. And at first, you can't blame them because they're pouring their life, their blood, sweat, and tears into creating this business. So yes, they are, it's like having a child. Like the business is your central focus for a long time. Yeah, your baby. And so I think it is hard for business owners and immediate family to kind of be able to step back and get that perspective of going, okay, the business, the brand, it's not about us. It's not about you as the owner or what your preferences may be or how you might see the world, but actually kind of honing in and going, no, we need to get in the minds of our customers. And just like we always talk about is like the empathy aspect of being a business owner or being a marketer or having a brand is like thinking about your audience and putting yourself in their shoes.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, the simplest things are when, we've seen brands that are, an emblem or a certain, sports team visual mascot. Yeah. Whether it is incorporated into the logo somehow. Hypothetical, we're a 49ers fan, so you're going to have the emblem, the SF, right, as part of somehow incorporated into your visual brand or your touch points. That's great for aligning your audience that are diehard 49er fans, right? But you're alienating all the others out there that aren't. Yeah. And does that best represent your brand and your service and your product offering, what you're doing to it? I mean, even I'm a diehard Star Wars fan, but I wouldn't, if I was going to come up with a company and have a logo, I'm not going to somehow in a small way incorporate the Rebel Alliance, icon in it. Although I have contemplated not. But no, I wouldn't.
It's the fine line of, okay, yes, it is your baby. It is, you're making this thing and you're wanting to get it out to the world and help people, but then it's not a direct reflection of you. And, you might even get a cease and desist at some point.
The decades of designing logos and working with clients and seeing so many times when the client has been resistant or to change, a lot of times these are like rebrands, right?
Yeah.
And we have to stick with this color because that's my wife's favorite color.
Yeah.
Again, it's this idea of get over yourself. This is not your logo and your brand are not about you. For instance, there's a great sandwich franchise. Great sandwiches. Love the brand. I'll eat there every now and then. But I'm not in favor of the brand. I'm not connected to the brand because I don't like the logo they have looks like it was drawn by a fifth grader.
Yeah.
And I don't know the history of it to know like what was its origins, and it probably had something to do with the owner that started this franchise, the first one that was launched, probably a family member, a niece, a nephew, a child, drew it. But to me, it seems like a disconnect because it visually comes across amateurish.
Like cut and dry, it doesn't matter. Because even what you just said, they could have any story behind their little illustration, but it doesn't matter because the perception is still the perception. That you see it as an amateur drawing or illustration that doesn't live up to the quality of the food product. So it kind of subtracts all that energy.
It's weighing
and
it
effort.
down.
It's
like
weighing
the brand down.
You're doing yourself a huge disservice. And I think this comes down to the confusion of tactical and strategic, where, okay, it could be tactical to have references of, oh, my granddaughter or my niece drew our company's logo. And you can have that maybe as like an Instagram post or something, and then do a little competition where kids can send in their little illustrations or something. But it's the same thing of, yeah, you may love Star Wars, or you may love Harry Potter, or whatever it is, or a certain sports team, but you don't integrate that into the boundaries of the brand. You could have it hidden or have it somehow kind of integrated in like touch points or little like snippets of it where you're hinting at it. Like on our website, on motifbrands.com, we have a hidden little nod to the wizarding world of Harry Potter. And it's fun. It says something about us. It's rather hidden, but those who do see it are usually the ones where they see something and it sticks out and they go, "Oh my gosh, that's
and
actually..."
they've made a mention to it. There was like,
and they love
thought
it.
it was clever, but it's so in the background and almost like a hidden little Easter egg. And if you find it great, and if it resonates with you, even great, because then they've reached out and with even more like, man, you seem like you would be guys I'd want to connect with.
Yeah, and that's kind of the magic of it. So then when it comes to rebranding, what's kind of the issues in this arena?
You get approached by, hey, we need to rebrand, and you start to look at high elevation, and a lot of times you go back to the logo and things like that, and it becomes like, oh, well, we want to rebrand, but that component, that's
sacred.
untouchable. That's sacred. Yes,
Yeah.
It's the sacred cow. And that comes from usually for second or third generation businesses, small businesses, where, oh, my great grandfather started this and he actually designed that or whatever, right? And we don't touch that. But it's like, no, anytime with your brand, there should be no sacred cows. Because when you're looking at your brand or rebranding to match where you are in the market space or where you're trying to take your business, as soon as you set up boundaries of this is untouchable and for no other reason in your strategy other than because someone or maybe you won't let go of it.
Yeah.
It may be that through strategy and analysis, you decide this is not going to be touched. We're going to honor that, whatever it is.
Yeah,
but there's
value.
strategy to it. And so it all comes down to the context of what's driving that decision. And if it's just because you love it so much and don't want to let it go, that's a red flag.
Yeah. And that's always a sign of when someone becomes comfortable. They're comfortable with something and they don't want to change. They don't ever want to change. There's growth, there's pain, and in adaptation that's painful. It's painful to evolve and take things to the next level rather than going, no, we're safe here. This is comfortable. I'm familiar with this. I don't want to change it up. And that actually, I was just listening to an interview with John Mackey, who's the founder of Whole Foods. And when they first started, they totally bombed because they had a great Whole Food selection, very specific to how he eats and how I think his girlfriend at the time when they started it, how they ate and their lifestyle, but their audience was only so big. So to that same point is that they may have been comfortable with certain foods and all of that, and they didn't want to do what other grocers were doing at the time, but they had to expand and start allowing these other foods that the market was wanting, even though it was outside of their comfort zone, even though it was changing and it felt off for them. But he's like, we would have died. Whole Foods wouldn't be around if we hadn't done that. And so it's kind of to that point of going, it wasn't about them. It wasn't about how their lifestyle was. Yes, they were addressing their lifestyle and those who related to that, but they're doing it within, being able to actually be marketable and actually be a viable business and being able to actually appease the audience. And then they became, one of the top grocers ever per square foot. They were outselling everyone. Yeah. So it goes back to going, okay, it wasn't about them. Yeah, it may have had the initial role and the momentum to it, but it's still going, it's about the market, about the buyer, and being able to go beyond personal preferences or beyond what makes you comfortable.
Your brand should reflect more of your audience and connect with your audience in some form than it should be about yourself. Otherwise, you're not projecting out to them. You're projecting. You're looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
And while the intentions are great, but you always want to either if you're starting something new, right, have that filter, or if you're at a point where you're struggling or you want to take your brand to the next level, you need to be willing to ask yourself, is this about me, and how much of it should be? Because it's to make it sterile and not have it reflect you, that's a crime too.
Yeah. And I think finally, kind of just the symptoms of this is a huge red flag to me is always the self-talk, whether it's on the website or in a commercial or in, some marketing materials where the companies, all their materials only talk about them, or it's about their history. It's about what they believe about, us, we, all these things. And it's like, you never actually mention the customer. You're never actually addressing what your market is, their situation, what they may be feeling, or coming alongside them. And so then
identifying with them.
Yeah. That's like almost like symptoms of going, okay, that is definitely a red flag that your perspective needs to change. Yes. Allow your perspective and how you address the market, that to be distinct and that to be part of the uniqueness of your brand. But you also need to really adjust the perspective of how you come about the communication side of it.
Yeah.
So overall, I like what Scott said about, nothing being sacred, being able to adapt and change, not holding on to things too tight, and really not letting your personal preferences or biases seep into the business and the brand's position, because that's just going to weigh you down.
And it's visual touch points.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. It's kind of that idea of like, there's an inside joke and you're saying it, and you and one other person in the room are the ones laughing because you get it, and no one else gets it. Like think of it in terms of that. You don't want to be that. You don't want to be the person in the room telling that joke that no one else gets except one other person. Okay. So be mindful. Step outside of yourself. I think that was a short little brief shot, maybe one or two shots, but
yeah. Let us know what you like in the comments on Spotify, or you can email us and let us know if you like the shots.
Yeah.
But we will see you next time on the next round of Brandy.
Cheers.